أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Ayah number 122. أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا, and is one who was dead. A person who was dead. A question is being asked over here. أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا, then a person who was dead, فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ, then we gave him life. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا, and we made for him light. And with this light, يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ, he walks with it among people. This person, can he be كَمَنْ, like the one who, مَثَلُهُ, his example is like of the one in فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ, in darknesses, لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا, and he is never to emerge therefrom. كَذَلِكَ زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, thus it has been made pleasing to the disbelievers that which they were doing. In this ayah, two people are being mentioned. Two characters are being mentioned. The first is of the one who was previously dead, and Allah gave him life. And He didn't just give him life, but He gave him light. And with that light, he walks among people. He lives by that light. On the other hand is a person who is in darknesses, many darknesses, and he's never to come out of those darknesses. Can these two people be the same? No. One is in light, he is alive, and the other is in darkness. They're not the same at all. In their behavior, in their lifestyle, in their consequences, they're not the same at all. Now over here when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا, it does not mean a person who was physically dead. But rather it means he was dead spiritually. He was dead spiritually. Why? Because of unbelief, because of misguidance, because of ignorance. He was dead. And if you look at something that's dead, it does not produce anything. It does not grow. Similarly, this person, he was just dead. He was not producing any good deeds. He was not growing in his iman. He was stagnant. And eventually he would shrivel up and finish. He would decompose completely. So over here, Maitan refers to a person who was spiritually dead because of disbelief, because of nifaq, or because of kufr, because of shirk, because of lack of knowledge, because of misguidance, whatever kind of death this is. فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ, but then Allah gave him life. How? By giving him iman, by giving him hidayah, by giving him guidance to the right path. It's not possible that a person who was dead in this dunya comes alive except in the time of Isa a.s. as a miracle. But generally this doesn't happen. So over here again, ihya refers to spiritually coming alive. Spiritually becoming alive. So we gave him life. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا, and we made for him a light. Which light is this? The light of the Qur'an, the light of iman, with which he can tell between what is right and what is wrong. Because a person may be alive, but if he is in the darkness, what use are his eyes? Nothing. Because he cannot see. Although his eyes may be functioning very properly. He doesn't even wear glasses. He doesn't have weak eyesight at all. But because of the darkness, his eyes are useless. They're not benefiting him at all. What does he need? A light. So what is this light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him? This light is of knowledge. It is of the Qur'an. It is of iman, through which he can tell between what is right, what is wrong, what should be done, what should be left. Yamshi bihi, he walks with it. Yamshi from the root letters, mim, sheen, ya. He walks with it. With what? With this light. Amongst who? Finnas, amongst the people. Meaning wherever he goes, he has this light with him. He doesn't leave it at home. He takes it everywhere that he goes. He's not selective as to where he's going to use that light. No, he uses it in every situation. Because sometimes what happens? We learn about the Quran. Either we don't yamshi anymore, we don't walk anymore amongst people, we completely boycott people, we become extremely antisocial. But what does Allah say? Yamshi. He walks. He walks. He is socially active. He lives amongst people. And when he's living amongst people, everywhere that he goes, he takes that light with him. What do we do sometimes? When we come to the masjid, then we have that light with us. When we're standing in prayer, then we have that light with us. But when we're having an argument, then that light disappears. When we're getting upset with someone, that light goes away. When somebody's staring at us, that light goes away. When we go to the mall, that light is gone. Yamshi bihi fin nas. He walks with that light amongst people. He is social. He lives amongst the people. He does not become a rahib. But no matter where he is, no matter where he goes, he has that light with him. He follows that knowledge. Whether he is on the street, in the mall, in the bank, in his house, in the masjid, he does not blindly follow the people, rather, he follows that light. It is also said that yamshi bihi fin nas, what this means is that he walks amongst people, taking this light around with him. To who? To the people. Because if you have light with yourself, and you are in your room, and the door is shut, who will benefit from that light only? You will. And there are other people in the house, on the street, who don't have light at all. So what is your responsibility? That you should take that light to other people as well. You should walk amongst people, so that as you walk, people can find light. If you don't walk, if you shut yourself up, people will have no light. Yamshi bihi fin nas. He provides this light for others as well. Now this person who was dead, Allah gave him iman, He gave him knowledge, and he uses his knowledge everywhere. He is an enlightened person. Can he be like the one, mathaluhu, whose example is of the one who is fil dhulumat, in darkness? Which darkness is this? The darkness of unbelief, the darkness of misguidance, the darkness of ignorance. And laysa bi kharijin minha. He's not even willing to come out of this darkness. He doesn't want to emerge from it because he's very comfortable inside. He's very comfortable inside. He doesn't want to come out. Because if light is shown, then what's going to happen? He's going to see what is right, he's going to see what is wrong, and he doesn't want to change his ways. So he doesn't want any light at all. Like for example, if a person is doing something wrong, if he has some mistakes and other people point out those mistakes to him, what does he do? He doesn't want to listen to them, because then he's going to have to change his ways. So he does not want to change his ways. لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. So he stays in that darkness. These two people, can they be the same? No, they cannot be the same. كَذَلِكَ, likewise. Like how? Like we have adorned iman for the believers. Like iman becomes something so beautiful to the believers. زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. For the disbelievers also it has been adorned. What has been adorned for them? مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Their actions, whatever they do. Which is why we learn in Surah Al-Rum, ayah number 7, that يَعْمَلُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. They know what is apparent of the worldly life only. But they of the hereafter, they are unaware. Completely negligent of the akhirah. Because they are so happy and content and interested in what? In the actions of this dunya only. They're not concerned about the akhirah. زُيِّنَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So we see that these two people, they're not the same in any way. In their actions, in their lifestyle, in their end result. They're completely different. What do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn that there are two types of people. There are only two types of people. Either someone who is spiritually alive, or someone who is spiritually dead. And these two people, these two characters, are mentioned over and over in the Quran. They're not just mentioned over here only, but they're mentioned in many chapters of the Quran in many different ways. For instance, in Surah Al-Baqarah, what did we learn? That Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu يُخْرِجُهُم مِّنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ. On the other hand, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَوْلِيَاؤُهُمُ الطَّاغُوتُ يُخْرِجُونَهُم مِّنَ النُّورِ إِلَى الظُّلُمَاتِ. One is in light and the other is in darkness. In Surah Al-Mulk, ayah number 22, we learn أَفَمَن يَمْشِي مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِهِ أَهْدَى أَمَّن يَمْشِي سَوِيًّا عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Then is one who walks fallen on his face better guided, or one who walks straight on a straight path? Who is better guided? Two characters are being presented. Similarly, in Surah Hud, ayah number 24, we learn مَثَلُ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ كَالْأَعْمَى وَالْأَصَمِّ وَالْبَصِيرِ وَالسَّمِيعِ هَلْ يَسْتَوِيَانِ مَثَلًا أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. The example of the two groups, meaning of the believers and disbelievers, is like the blind and deaf and the seeing and hearing. One person is dead because he is blind, he is deaf, and the other person is alive because he sees and he hears. Are they equal in comparison? Then will you not remember? Similarly in Surah Fatir, ayat 19 to 22, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا يَسْتَوِي الْأَعْمَى وَالْبَصِيرُ وَلَا الظُّلُمَاتُ وَلَا النُّورُ وَلَا الظِّلُّ وَلَا الْحُرُورُ. Not equal are the blind and the seeing, nor are the darkness and the light, nor are the shade and the heat. وَمَا يَسْتَوِي الْأَحْيَاءُ وَلَا الْأَمْوَاتُ. Similarly, the living and the dead, they're not the same. Meaning a person who is spiritually alive and a person who is spiritually dead, they're completely different. So there are two completely different opposite characters. A person belongs to either one of these two groups. Either he is someone who is in light, someone who is alive, or someone who is dead. Then we also learn from this ayah that a person without knowledge, without iman, who is he? Who is he? He is mayt. He is dead. And a person who has iman, a person who has knowledge of the deen, then what is he? He is alive. Just like a seed. If it is kept dry in a container, it's dead. Is it going to produce anything? No. Is anything going to come out of it? No. And if you leave it there long, what's going to happen? It's going to become extremely dry and it's going to finish eventually. It's not going to produce anything. Even if you try to grow it, it's going to die eventually. It's going to finish eventually. But what happens if you put that same seed under the soil and you pour water over it and you provide it with sunlight? What's going to happen? The seed is going to split open. فَالِقُ الْحَبِّ وَالنَّوَى. It's going to split open. And then what's going to happen? Life is going to come out of it. This is the case of every heart as well. That the heart of a person is dead, without iman, without knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows upon a person knowledge of the Qur'an. And remember, wahi, revelation is like rain as well. And what does that do? It brings life in a person, and then he grows. Then he grows. And when a person does not have the Qur'an, when a person does not have iman, then he is dead. He does not produce any benefit. He does not perform any good deeds at all. But a person who comes alive because of the Qur'an, then he becomes productive. And for that, a person's ego has to be broken. The shell has to be broken. And only then, a lot of khair will come out. Which is why we see that, for instance, sometimes there are people who have not received any kind of good training, good tarbiyah in their entire life, who have been involved in every type of sin, from theft to lying to zina to drugs and alcohol, all types of sins. They have committed all types of sins. Why? Because they never learned about what is right, what is wrong. Or, even if they learned about it, it never really affected them. But what happens when they learn the Qur'an? What happens? They completely change. Completely. It's as if they have become a completely new person. They have come alive. Previously, they were shelled up. They wouldn't talk to anyone. They wouldn't share their feelings with anyone. They wouldn't do anything good. But now when they become alive, then you see them being so productive. You see them being so beneficial to the other people who are around them. We see that just as our bodies, they need nourishment, similarly our hearts also, they also need nourishment. Depending on what nourishment you receive, that is how you will grow. If a person gets nourishment from shaitan, لَيُوحُونَ إِلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِهِمْ, then he's going to remain dead. It's not going to make him grow at all. It's like junk food, which doesn't do you any good, it only harms you. And on the other hand, there is the revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent, the Qur'an. And when that is given to a dead heart, what happens? It becomes alive. We also learn from this ayah that a person who has been given iman, a person who has been given knowledge, it is as though he has been given a new life. Because just imagine, life without Qur'an, life without iman, and life with Qur'an, completely different. Completely different. So a person who has been given the knowledge, who has been given iman, after having no iman, after having no knowledge, after being far from Allah, it is as though he has been given a new life. Therefore, it is incumbent on him to take this as a huge favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And thank Him day in and day out, constantly for this blessing of iman, for this blessing of knowledge. And never even for a moment should he take it as a burden. Never should he take it as a burden. He should think that this is a blessing from Allah. I have become alive. I was like a dead person before. Now I'm spiritually alive. And if a person, after being given this knowledge, after being given this iman, if he leaves it, and if he returns to the state of ignorance, then what is he choosing? He is choosing death for himself. He is choosing lifelessness for himself. We also learn from this ayat that a person has to put an effort to try to come out of darkness. Because Allah says, لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. He's never going to come out of it. He doesn't want to. Only when a person wishes to come out of darkness, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides him. Because a person might say that, okay, both were dead, but Allah gave life to one. Why not the other? Because the other didn't want to come out of darkness. Even though he was given the knowledge of the Qur'an, still he didn't want it. This is why he never changed. He never wanted to leave his ways. He was so happy and content with the ways of darkness, he never wanted to leave them. So what do we learn? That only when a person wishes to come out of darkness, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides him. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا فِي كُلِّ قَرْيَةٍ. And thus we have placed within every city أَكَابِرَ مُجْرِمِيهَا, the greatest of its criminals. So we have placed in every city the greatest of its criminals. Why? لِيَمْكُرُوا فِيهَا, so that they conspire in it. Against who? Against the Prophet. Remember the beginning ayat. زُخْرُفَ الْقَوْلِ. So in every qaryah, in every nation, in every people, in every population, the akabir. Akabir is the plural of akbar. And who is akbar? Greatest. Over here it means elite, the leaders, those who are greatest, whether it is in wealth or in authority, in money, in status, in lineage, in age. So the akabir, mujrimiha, mujrimi is actually mujrimin, plural of mujrim. And who is mujrim? A criminal, culprit, someone who commits evil, someone who creates fasad, someone who harms others through his actions and through words. Akabira mujrimiha has been understood over here in several ways. First one, it has been said that akabira mujrimiha means greatest of its criminals. And this is the object of ja'alna. This is the maf'ul of ja'alna. Because look, akabira mujrimiha. What is this? Mansub. What does mansub mean? It ends with a fatha. Okay, what else? It is an object. So ja'alna akabira mujrimiha. We have placed in every people great mischief makers, its greatest criminals. Why have we placed them over there? لِيَمْكُرُوا, so that they can plot and plan. So in every community, there are people who are the greatest of its criminals. There are levels of criminals. The greatest of the criminals of the people, what do? They plot and plan against the Prophet, against those who are on haqq. Like for example, in the city of Makkah, there were many people who lied, many people who were oppressive, many people who were oppressive towards their slaves, who did not care about relationships. But if you look at it, Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab, they beat everyone in these crimes. Wasn't it? They beat everyone in these crimes. Abu Lahab was a relative of the Prophet ﷺ. But still, he didn't care about that relationship. So the greatest of its criminals are made what? Are placed in every nation. Why? So that they can plot over there. We learned in Surah Nuh, ayah number 22, about the people of Nuh alayhi salam, that وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرًا كُبَّارًا, and they plotted a mighty plot. Why did they come up with a mighty plot? Because they were the greatest criminals. Secondly, they said that وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا فِي كُلِّ قَرْيَةٍ أَكَابِرَ مُجْرِمِيهَا. What it means is that in every people, the akabir, meaning the elite, the leaders, they were made what? Its criminals. They were made its criminals. The elite were made the criminals in every nation. Which is why we see that in the time of Musa alayhi salam, who was the greatest criminal? Fir'aun. He was made the criminal. Similarly, at the time of Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, who were his fiercest of opponents? It was the leaders. It was the elite. So who became the mujrim? It was the akabir, meaning it was the elite. And what did they do? لِيَمْكُرُوا فِيهَا, so that they would plot in it against the Prophet, against the people of Iman, in order to stop people from Iman. وَمَا يَمْكُرُونَ إِلَّا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ, and they do not plot except with themselves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ, and they do not perceive. What do we learn from this ayah? That a person who plots, in reality, who is he harming? Himself. In Surah Al-Naml, ayah 50, we learn, وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرًا وَمَكَرْنَا مَكْرًا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ, and they plotted a plot, and we made a plan as well. And they did not perceive that their plan was actually going to go against themselves. We also learn in Surah Fatir, ayah number 43, استكبار في الأرض ومكر السيء ولا يحيق المكر السيء إلا بأهله. Due to arrogance in the land and plotting of evil, but the evil plot does not encompass except its own people. Meaning those people who spin the web, who put the trap, they're the ones who fall in the trap. They're the ones who suffer harm at the end. وَإِذَا جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَةٌ, and when a sign comes to them, meaning when a miracle comes to them. To who? To the people of Mecca. قَالُوا, they said, لَن نُؤْمِنَ, we will never believe, حَتَّى نُؤْتَى مِثْلَ مَا أُوتِيَ رُسُلُ اللَّهِ, we are never going to believe until we are given what the messengers of Allah were given. Musa a.s. was given a staff. Isa a.s. was given so many miracles. So we should also be given miracles. And when we can see those miracles, when we're given those fine abilities, then we will believe. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? Allahu a'lamu haythu yaj'alu risalatah. But Allah knows best. Allah is most knowing as to where He should place His message. Meaning who He should make the messenger. The people of Mecca, they used to object that if someone had to be made the prophet, why is it Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? If wahi could come to him, then it should also come to us. And since it has not come to us, we're not going to believe. We're never going to believe until we're given exactly what the other messengers were given. If the angel comes to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he should also come to us. If the Quran is given to him, then some kind of scripture should also be given to us. If wahi comes to him, wahi should also be given to us. We're never going to believe until the same is given to us. What does Allah say? Allah knows where He should place His message, meaning whom He should make the messenger. And you don't know. Allah knows who is most worthy of this position. سَيُصِيبُ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا, those people who have committed crime, soon it's going to reach them. What's going to reach them? صَغَارٌ, abasement. humiliation. عند Allah, in the sight of Allah. What does صغار mean? صغار is from the root letters صاد, غين, را. And صغرة is to be small, to be little. And over here it gives a sense of being humiliated. Being humiliated. When a person is made small, when a person is insulted. So soon, what's going to reach them? صغار, humiliation. عند Allah, in the sight of Allah. In this dunya, also in the akhirah. They may consider themselves to be very arrogant. People may look up to them. But in reality, they are very low in the sight of Allah. وَعَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ, meaning a severe punishment is also going to reach them. Why? بِمَا كَانُوا يَمْكُرُونَ, because of their plotting. We learned that when the Prophet ﷺ, when he began calling people towards the deen, towards the oneness of Allah, towards the worship of Allah only, there were many people who opposed him. And they came up with many objections. Of them was that who is he to be made the Prophet of Allah? And we learned that Walid ibn Mughira, who was a very wealthy man, and also a very successful man, it is said that he had 10 children, and 10 sons, which was a big deal. And he was also very handsome, he was also very eloquent, and he was one of the leaders of Mecca. He objected, and he said that لَكَانَتِ النُّبُوَّةُ حَقًّا, if nubuwwah was really true, لَكُنْتُ أَوْلَى بِهَا مِنْكَ, then I would be more deserving of it than you. Why? Because لِأَنِّي أَكْبَرُ مِنْكَ سِنًّا, because I am greater than you in age, وَأَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا, and I am more than you in wealth. I am older than you, I am wealthier than you. This is why I am more deserving of prophethood. But what does Allah say? Allah knows who deserves this title. Allah knows who deserves this job. Whether it is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam ibn Abdullah, or it is Walid ibn Mughira. Allah knows very well. What do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn that a person should not object at the decisions of Allah, at the decree of Allah. And he should not be arrogant in accepting other people's superiority. Because sometimes what happens? When we see somebody else has given something that we want, or somebody else has given something because of which they are made superior to us, we cannot tolerate it. And we deny, we refuse, we object, we make fun, just because we think that we are more deserving. But the fact is that Allah is Alim. Does He not know that so-and-so is more deserving of that position than you? Then what's the point of being jealous? What's the point of being arrogant? Your arrogance, your jealousy is not going to change anything anyway. So one should not be arrogant towards the decisions of Allah, and he should not object at the commands of Allah either. Whether it is with the matters of rizq, with the matters of provision, money, wealth, status, knowledge, a title at work, an authority at work, or marriage even. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who should be given more and who should be given less. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which it is mentioned that Allah knows, this is just a summary, that Allah knows His slaves so well that if He were to give more wealth to some, they would become disobedient to Him. And if He were to give less to some, then they would become disobedient. So it's possible that there is a person who is very honest, who is very obedient, but still at the same time he doesn't reach that same height that the dishonest person is reaching. Allah knows, it's His wisdom, it's His knowledge. So behind every decree, behind every decision of Allah, there is the wisdom of Allah. We should never become too arrogant and object at the decision of Allah. And we learned earlier as well that if a person does not obey Allah, then as respite, Allah gives him more benefits in this dunya. So never should we judge through material level that, okay, because this person is materially successful, therefore Allah is happy with him. And this person is not materially successful, therefore Allah is not happy with him. No. It should never be judged according to that. So over here, the problem was that the mushrikeen of Makkah, they would say that since we are more wealthy, we are more prestigious, therefore prophethood should be given to us. It should not be given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What does Allah say? Allah knows better as to who He should give prophethood to. Therefore, a person should not object at the decisions of Allah. And he should not be arrogant in accepting other people's superiority. In Surah Al-Muddathir, ayah number 52, we learn, بَلْ يُرِيدُ كُلُّ امْرِئٍ مِّنْهُمْ أَن يُؤْتَى صُحُفًا مُنَشَّرَةً. Rather, every person among them desires that he should be given scriptures that are spread out. They're so arrogant that every person from among the mushrikeen, he wants that just as Muhammad ﷺ is given revelation, they should also be given revelation. And not just revelation that is oral, but written. That's what they want. This is how arrogant they are. We also learn from this ayah that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has selected someone for something, then He knows that they deserve it. There is some reason behind it. It's possible that you don't see it. It's possible that you don't find that person deserving of something that he has been given. But Allah has a wisdom behind it. There is a reason behind it. And maybe that person has some ability because of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him that. Especially when it comes to the deen. We're not talking about dunya. We're talking about the deen. If somebody has been given success in religion and you think they're not deserving of it, never think like that. Never assume that. There is some special quality in that person that Allah chose him and He did not choose you. So don't think that, oh, these people, they don't know anything. If we compare this to the previous ayah, that a person who was maitan, a person who was dead, Allah gave him life, meaning knowledge of the deen, He gave him iman, and now all of a sudden, he comes in the limelight or something like that, people start objecting. Did you see this person before? Did you know what they used to do before? This is how they used to behave. This is what they would do. You don't know their past. I know very well. But what does Allah say? There is something in that person because of which he was given this blessing. And there's something that you don't have because of which you were not given this blessing. So, it's possible that we don't see it in the other person, but Allah definitely sees it. For example, it's possible that there are a group of people and one person is always leading the salah. And other people become envious of him. But why him? Well, because he has knowledge of the Qur'an. He has memorized the entire Qur'an. That's why. Allahu a'lamu. Allah is most knowing. So, when it comes to such things, we should accept the fact that Allah knows very well about each and every slave of His. He knows who is worthy of what. If I have not been given something of the deen, then the problem is with me. The problem is with me. Instead of pointing fingers on other people, instead of publicizing their past mistakes, what should we do? Focus on improving ourselves. We learn from the Qur'an that وَقَالُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنُ عَلَى رَجُلٍ مِّنَ الْقَرْيَتَيْنِ عَظِيمٍ. And they say, why is not this Qur'an sent down to some great man of the two towns? أَهُمْ يَقْسِمُونَ رَحْمَةَ رَبِّكَ? Allah questions, is it they who would portion out the mercy of your Lord? No. Who distributes the mercy of Allah? Allah Himself. So who are they to say that Muhammad ﷺ does not deserve prophethood? Of course he does, which is why Allah selected him out of all people. Out of all people. This is why Allah selected him. So it's possible that we are lacking in something because the reason which we have not been chosen. So we need to improve ourselves. We need to check ourselves instead of looking at others. We also learn from this ayah that when a person becomes arrogant and he does not accept the other person's superiority and he conspires against him, he plots against him, then such a person will be humiliated in dunya and akhirah. When a person does not accept, then he is degraded. He is insulted in dunya and akhirah. When a person does not accept, when a person becomes arrogant, and when a person goes on to the extent of conspiring against those people who have been chosen by Allah, such a person is humiliated because Allah says, سَيُصِيبُ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا صَغَارٌ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. They will become small. وَعَذَابٌ شَدِيدٌ. Why? بِمَا كَانُوا يَمْكُرُونَ. Because they used to plot.